Welcome to the webinar. My name is Madeline. I'm the Foundation's Director of Communications. I'm just going to go through very quick logistics and intro to FFAR for those who are less familiar with our organization. So all participants are now on mute. Please feel free to submit questions in the chat box throughout the webinar. We were established, as many of you know, through bipartisan congressional support in the 2014 Farm Bill. We were provided $200 million to leverage with partners through investment in innovative agriculture research. We are governed by a board of directors, and we work closely with the USDA to make sure we're complementing the great work that they are doing. Our board is currently chaired by Mississippi State University President Dr. Mark Keenum, and our inaugural board chair was Secretary Dan Glickman. We currently have 19 voting members on our board and 5 ex officio members, including leadership at both the USDA and NSF. And as you may know, our mission is to build unique partnerships to support innovative science addressing today's food and agriculture challenges. So we're particularly excited to be here talking about aquaculture and how we can create new opportunities for a sustainable aquaculture economy in the United States. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim, who is the scientific program lead on our protein challenge. Take it away, Tim.
Thank you, Madeline. So I'm excited to tell you about the Foundation for Food and Agriculture's Research Aquaculture program today. Research in aquaculture is traditionally underfunded, but has significant potential as a sustainable protein source. The Sustainable American Aquaculture program from FFAR is intended to advance innovative research in sustainable fish and shellfish production. And we believe that research will play a critical role in understanding the biology and marketability of a variety of fish and shellfish species, and in developing environmentally friendly practices that sustain production. The overarching objective for this request for applications is to stimulate innovative research in the farm production of fish and shellfish, thereby providing economic opportunities to U.S. farmers and increasing the supply of domestically produced nutritious foods to meet growing consumer demand. And again, there's a major need to understand the biological and technological barriers as well as market potential for a diverse range of aquatic species. There are 3 main program priorities for this RFA. The first are genetics of less commonly studied shellfish species, such as mussels, clams, scallops, shrimp, and other species, for improved performance parameters. We'll consider research on both new species and those in production. The research topics or research approaches that will be considered for funding will include genomics, quantitative genetics, and phenomics, as well as gene editing and biotechnology. Program priority 2 is to support hatchery research, including broodstock development and best early life cycle production practices. And research topics that would be covered under this program priority include broodstock nutrition and management for optimal egg production and viability, male reproductive performance, improved egg production and hatching rate of fertilized eggs, and these could include components such as spawning, fertilization or artificial fertilization, and incubation procedures, and then early life cycle stage research, which could include feeding protocols and research related to increasing the survival of early life cycle stages such as larvae and fry to the juvenile or fingerling stages of development. Program priority 3 includes market-based and commercial feasibility analyses for new species and or production regions, and research topics that will be covered here would include business risk and economic feasibility, market potential, or research on other factors that might impact development and commercialization. Research topics that are not covered by this RFA from FFAR include molecular mechanisms of disease transmission or pathogenesis of diseases, including therapeutics, food safety-related research, traceability and seafood fraud, and oyster genetics and breeding are not included in the shellfish research component. FFAR anticipates awarding up to $5 million to projects under this funding opportunity. Each project may be funded for $150,000 to up to $1 million of FFAR funding, and the budget must be reasonable and commensurate with the proposed work. For each project, we do require matching funding or outside funding. This has to be non-federal funding, and it must be equivalent to the request from FFAR. Industry partnerships are highly encouraged, and groups may, we do permit up to 50% of matching funding as in-kind matching, but at least 50% has to be a cash match. So for a group asking for $200,000 from FFAR, they need to identify $200,000 in matching funds, including in-kind. Project duration may be up to 60 months in duration, although shorter projects of 24 to 36 months will be preferred. And the number of awards is to be determined, and this will depend on the quality and budget of the 6 most meritorious applications, and FFAR reserves the right to negotiate all or none of the applications received for funding consideration under this opportunity. The pre-proposal deadline for this opportunity is August 9th at approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and all pre-proposal applications must be submitted online through Proposal Central. A link is provided here and on our website at foundationfar.org. If you're a new user to Proposal Central, you can register for an account by clicking the Create Now button, and you'll receive a confirmation email to sign into your account. Once you log in, you can search through the list of institutions to see if there's an institutional profile for your organization, and if there's not, then you can set one up through your Grants and Contracts Department or through your place of business. Here's a view of Proposal Central. You can see that this screenshot is taken with my login name, but the Create One Now button is the orange button down on the left-hand side of the screen where the red arrow is. To access FFAR's open funding opportunities, click the Grants Opportunities button on the right top corner of your screen, and then at the top left corner of the screen, pull down Filter by Grant Maker and scroll down to select FFAR, which is indicated by these red arrows. Select the opportunity, which in this case will be aquaculture, and then you should be able to proceed with your proposal submission. The review process at FFAR is outlined on our website at foundationfar.org under Applicant Resources and Review Process. Pre-proposals will be reviewed internally at FFAR to ensure the proposed project is relevant to the RFA, and only the most innovative and cutting-edge projects with significant potential for advancing aquaculture industry will be invited to submit a full proposal application. Applicants will be notified of pre-proposal status on August 30th, 2017. Full proposals will be due October 11th, 2017. Full proposals will then be evaluated by peer reviewers external to FFAR with appropriate conflict of interest forms and non-disclosure protections in place. FFAR Advisory Council members will then provide secondary level review and portfolio balancing of these projects after receiving the comments and scores from peer reviewers, and FFAR will seek to notify potential grantees in December of 2017, with funded projects anticipated to start in early 2018. We are also recruiting expert peer reviewers for this funding opportunity and would appreciate you recommending your colleagues as potential peer reviewers. They can register on our website through the reviewer resources page, and we have also provided a shortened web link here, which will take them directly to the registration page. So with that, I'm happy to take questions related to the program. Any questions that are very specific to the matching requirement you can direct to our grants manager at grants@foundationfar.org. Again, that's grants@foundationfar.org. And scientific related questions or other logistical questions you can direct to me. I hope that this has provided some additional information into the types of applications we're looking for and how to submit your pre-proposals. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them into your chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will address them as they appear. So among the first questions, we have a question regarding whether seaweed or sea vegetables will be included in the RFA. And unfortunately, at this time, those would not be included unless they were a component of one of the other studies, one of the main research priorities, such as hatchery research, early feeding protocols, or something to that extent. But otherwise, those would not be considered on their own. This presentation will be available on our webpage after the webinar is complete. We have a question about the starting time, which is that we anticipate funding projects starting in 2018, but would a proposal that has a start date in early 2019 be considered acceptable? That I think we would need to know a little bit more about the project and the proposed start time, and what a little bit more details on what's to be planned and what the expected timeline is. But we would consider that. So I would encourage you to still submit a pre-proposal. Hatchery research on tuna species would be considered. We'll consider hatchery research essentially on any species, so that one is not specific to species or to salinity, so it can be freshwater or saltwater species. Is there a limit on the number of institutes that can join in a proposal? The answer is no, but we do have a limit on the number of proposals an institution can submit, which is 1. So I would encourage multiple investigators from one research institution to work together in preparing their proposal. Proposals can address more than one of the research priorities as well. Another question related to, can proposals include efficiencies related to fish distribution? I think if this were included as addressing the market-based research, then potentially, yes. But I would need to know a little bit more about that project. One PI can only submit one proposal. How about as co-PI? Again, if they were part of another proposal that was from a different institution, then that would be acceptable. But if they were on, essentially, 2 investigators from the same institution will need to submit one proposal together, and but you can be on several proposals if they're from different institutions. So we have a question. Are any types of institutions excluded from applying? How broadly do you define institution? Multiple offices in an agency, for example, or schools within a university? So no types of institutions are excluded from applying. We will consider applications from across the aquaculture sector, both from private corporations as well as from public universities and private universities, or even nonprofits. So we define institution fairly broadly here, but I would say that multiple offices in an agency would, so different schools within a university would need to combine and submit a single application. Multiple offices in an agency would likely be asked to do that as well. I've not entirely, if this is in reference to ARS labs, then that wouldn't be, if they're in completely separate physical locations, we would likely consider them as separate entities. All right, that seems to be it for questions. Again, thank you for attending our webinar, and if you have other additional questions, please feel free to contact me. My email is tkurt@foundationfar.org, and our grants manager is grants@foundationfar.org.